Now on display in Washington, the official portraits of Barack and Michelle Obama. The story of the artist who painted the former First Lady is the story Alex Wagner has to tell.
Miss Amy Sherald, portrait artist.
Last week, Amy Sherald went from being a virtual unknown to one of the most talked about artists in the world. On Monday, her painting of Michelle Obama was unveiled at the National Portrait Gallery, alongside Kehinde Wiley's portrait of President Barack Obama. Both Sherald and Wiley were interviewed and chosen for the job by the Obamas themselves.
She came in and she looked at Barack and she said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm really excited to be here and I know I'm being considered for both portraits." She said, "But Mrs. Obama," she physically turned to me and she said, "I'm really hoping that you and I can work together."
You maybe had a particular interest in painting her.
Yes. I mean, he was asking questions as well, and she was like, no.
Unlike Kehinde Wiley, President Obama's portraitist, Amy Sherald, age 44, had been largely unknown. This was her big break. You've taken out loans. Mm-hmm. You have waited tables. Mm-hmm. Tell us how game-changing this moment is.
I am relieved that I can pay back my school loans. You know, it's something that, becoming an artist is not empirical, so it's not about hard work. I mean, you have to put the work in, but that doesn't mean you're gonna make it. I think hustling for that long, it kind of like chips away at your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And then the breakthrough comes and you're like, oh yeah, that's who I am. Like, this is who I am, yeah.
The portrait is similar to Sherald's other works, except her models, exclusively Black and never smiling, are usually strangers she meets on the street, not former First Ladies. As the process went on with the First Lady, did you get more comfortable?
I did, yeah. We had 2 sittings, but you're still always a little bit nervous having to look her in her eyes because I have to study the face before I photograph to try to figure out what I want. Mm-hmm. And those little intense moments where you just have to have courage to keep looking because you get bashful because, you're looking at the First Lady.
Why do you paint Black skin as in grayscale?
It just looked good. Like the gray skin on these bright colors, it just looked good. I think also I was subconsciously struggling with not wanting to be marginalized. And I say that because I feel like the Black body is a political statement in itself, right? So on canvas, all of a sudden I'm making this political statement just because I'm painting brown skin. But I paint the way that I paint, she chose me, she knew what to expect.
There are some people who look at the portrait of the First Lady and they say, I don't see her in it. I don't see the Michelle Obama that I know.
Yeah. Everybody is invested in them in all kinds of ways, on all different levels. And so for me to even want to paint her makes me crazy because, and I'm setting myself up for criticism, mm-hmm. right? I feel like I captured her. When I look at it, I see her. I see the Michelle that was present at the sitting, a contemplative, graceful woman, who understands her place in history.
Today, Amy Sherald has a place in history. Her paintings, which she works on in this Baltimore studio, are now selling for up to $50,000 each. But while this is her moment, it's a moment she wasn't sure she'd live to see. When did you first find out about your heart?
When I was 30. I've been walking around with my heart function at 18%, which is what most people get transplanted at, but I was asymptomatic, no symptoms at all.
Her heart was failing. Plus, there were relatives back home who needed her help. So she put aside her brushes and returned to Georgia. At one point, Sherald stopped painting for 4 years. In 2012, her brother died of cancer. Just days later, Sherald received a heart transplant from a young donor nearly a decade after her diagnosis.
My brother dying changed me. I didn't realize how strong I was until I lost my brother. And then I realized what my strength, I can get through stuff. And losing him only made me want to live my life even harder.
For an artist all too familiar with mortality, Amy Sherald seems to have found a sense of permanence. After all, her work now hangs in the National Portrait Gallery.
And I think it matters that these portraits are so different because something happened in history that wasn't supposed to happen. You know, there's a continuum and then there's a stop. And all of a sudden you're like, what was this? So 300 years from now, when the story's been watered down, you know what I mean? It's like those portraits will speak to that moment with the intensity that is necessary to bring forth the truth of what happened and why they were here.